I remember going to the Sheridan Musical Theater audition, which was the school that I was currently going to for performing arts, and they were like, maybe you should try an acting program. And I was like, ugh. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what not to do if you want to succeed at dance. Hi, my name is Jordan Sparks. Welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, welcome. I am a dance coach and performance artist, and I primarily make Dance Coach Reacts videos. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about everything that you just shouldn't do if you want to succeed at dance, and what I've learned along the way, and just some like little bits of advice and wisdom that I would like to share with you guys that I have learned from all of my mistakes along the journey. If you're interested in that, please make sure to give this video a great big thumbs up and smash the subscribe button if you're brand new to my channel. So this is probably going to be a long video, but it is also probably going to be one of the most important videos I've ever filmed, so please stick around till the end. So to start off my dance journey, I was born in a small country town in Alberta, Canada, and it was before the days of the internet, before the days of satellite television even. Yes, I know, I am prehistoric. So I fell in love with dance for the first time when I saw a performance of the Nutcracker on television when I was probably 3 years old, right before Christmas. And I remember seeing their costumes and seeing their turns and dancing on point in satin shoes, and I was like, I need to do that. And from then on, I was like obsessed with ballet. And then I watched the Olympics for the first time, and I saw them do like the floor mat gymnastics routines. And I was probably about 3 years old when I saw those for the first time as well. And then my grandmother was obsessed with Elvis Stoiko and Olympic figure skating, and so I used to watch that, and I was like, wow, I was just enamored by all of these physical arts. So growing up in a small town in Alberta before the internet, there really wasn't any access to watch dancers, especially for me at a young age, other than what I saw on television. And at that point, it was mostly just recordings of ballets, or you could watch pop stars like Michael Jackson, Britney Spears later to come. And that was really about it. There wasn't much dancing on TV, there wasn't the internet, there was nothing to watch, and there was nothing in my community that I could partake in. Sure, we had a couple dance studios, but boys didn't go to dance studios, and I didn't know anybody that danced in my entire town. And there wasn't very many people in my town, so back in the 90s, before the internet and all of these dance TV shows, there really just wasn't much out there in the media for dancing. So unless you grew up in an artistic community or you were influenced by dance and stuff at an early age, you just weren't going to experience any of that. So by like 3 or 4 years old, I was jumping around the house, dancing around the house, doing like gymnastics and stuff just on my own in the house. And as some of you guys may know, when I was 5 years old, I was kidnapped. And I was kidnapped for 7 years. During this 7-year period, I definitely did not partake in anything outside of home and school. I actually went to school while I was kidnapped, believe it or not. And I would go to school. I had no friends. I wasn't allowed to hang out with people. Even if I did have friends, I had to go to school, to the home, and I just hung out with my cats and my brother, who was also kidnapped with me, and my stuffed animals. I had like this imaginary world. And so for all of these 7 years, until I was about 12 years old, I wanted to be a dancer, I wanted to be a gymnast, and just all of these things were just dreams for me. They were giant fantasies. I couldn't take class. I couldn't go take a gymnastics class. I wasn't even allowed to go do anything or leave the house, so I certainly couldn't be enrolled in like a class. Ironically enough, even though I wasn't dancing or taking gymnastics or lessons or anything like that, during that entire time I was obsessed with flexibility. I used to come home from school, I would practice skipping tricks, and so I was always practicing some kind of art form, but at that point in my life, it was practicing skipping tricks, and I would just jump rope by myself and practice all of these different tricks. But I would do my stretches every single day. I would stretch out my hips, and I would stretch my splits, and I would do my back bridges, and I would try doing cartwheels and just gymnastics tricks that I didn't really have any training for, but I would try doing them anyways. This is important to the story, and I'll tell you in a minute why. And then right before I was 12 years old, I was returned to my mom, and I started going to public school. I started making friends. I started branching out and having a social life, but I still wasn't allowed to do dance classes or gymnastics. There still wasn't really any boys in the community that were dancing or doing these things, and even if they were, I was like begging my parents to take gymnastics and begging my parents to take dance lessons, but I wasn't allowed to. We just didn't have the money in the family or anything like that. At about 12 years old, like, I wanted this so badly. I remember I would go to the library, I would read every single book, even if it was fiction and nonfiction, anything about gymnastics and dance. And I just remember being heartbroken And I was kind of like bitter towards my mom and my stepdad because I couldn't take dance and gymnastics classes. And I just felt like it was like this dream that I was meant to have, and I couldn't do it because we were too poor. Now, it was that same year when I was in 6th grade that the owner of the studio that I later ended up teaching at in my 20s came to teach a dance class in our school gym class in public school. And so basically the owner of the studio was the mom of one of my friends in 6th grade. And so she came in and we got to do hip hop with her. And she's actually a ballet instructor, but she came in and taught hip hop probably because it was easier to teach to a group of kids that have never danced before. And so that was my first actual dance class. And I remember feeling like so amazing that I actually got to try dance for the first time, even though I couldn't go to a studio or anything like that. And then in 7th grade, when I started middle school and junior high, we had this thing called air bands. And basically you could rehearse and perform anything on air band day, which was once a year. And so me and my friends would always like choreograph and perform these numbers and put them on stage for air band day. And I was in drama class in middle school, so we would dance, and we did like a little production of Grease one year. It was also in middle school that I got to take gymnastics for like 3 weeks as part of our phys ed gym program as well. And I just remember like absolutely being obsessed, and like I took that opportunity as if it was like a golden nugget. I took that opportunity, like those 3 weeks with the mats out, as like the golden opportunity of life. And so at this point I was probably about 14 years old, and I was thinking, you know, it's too late to be a professional dancer. It's too late to be a gymnast. It's too late to go on and be in the Olympics. It's too late to do any of this, so I might as well just hanker down, focus on my academics, and just kiss those dreams goodbye. And so that was the mentality that I developed. When it was time for the gymnastics unit in high school, I remember that I would like give my all into that, and I would be so excited. Or even the dance unit where we would be doing like square dancing. I was so into it, but at that point in my mind, I was like, there's no way that you could be a dancer. There's no way that you could ever be a performer. Like, it's just too late. That ship has sailed. Flash forward to the end of high school, and I saw High School Musical for the first time. And at this point, I was filling out applications for dental school scholarships. I was like so focused on my academics, and I watched High School Musical for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, what have I been doing? Like, I literally need to do this. And at this point, the internet was available, so I started researching all these different artists and how they got their start, and I was like, oh my God, you know what? Maybe it isn't too late to start. Like, maybe if I just try now, I could at least be an actor. So by grade 12, I had a couple scholarships. I had offers for big universities to go off and take a Bachelor of Science, and I decided to stay home in Alberta and take a lap year where I would focus on becoming a hairdresser, and then I was going to go off to acting school. So I did that for a year. Finally, my wonderful opportunity came along where I was going to college to performing arts. And it was in this 1-year prep program where I was introduced to tap dancing, ballet, jazz. I was getting to perform for the first time with real critics and real industry professionals that knew what they were talking about. And it was just so inspiring to see all of these people that maybe weren't strong actors or weren't strong singers or weren't strong dancers, but they all succeeded because they believed that they could succeed, and they put themselves out there and they just made it happen. So from that point I was like, okay, I can do musical theater, because at least if I can do like a smidgen of dance and a smidgen of singing and a smidgen of acting, then I can just put them all together, and then hopefully that will be like, hopefully I'll be good enough to do something. Now for me, it took me until I was 19 years old until I believed that I could even start. Before that, for the first 19 years of my life, I just felt like I was missing out and I couldn't do anything about it, and all these opportunities were passing me by, or that the boat had sailed and it was too late to become a professional because every other dancer had started at 3 years old. And at 19, I finally built up the courage to say, you know what, I don't care if I fail, I'm going to start anyways. And so for you guys, I say, don't let limiting beliefs control anything. Don't allow limiting beliefs into your head. Whether you were 3 years old, whether you were 6 years old, whether you were 12, whether you were 30, whether you were 65, if you want to dance, you can start today, and there's something you can do now, whether it's at home stretching, whether you're taking an adult class, whether you're registering yourself in your first recreational class, whether you're on a competition team, you're taking gymnastics, you're watching videos on YouTube and practicing at home. There's something that you can do right now, and if you believe that you can succeed, you will succeed. And if you believe that you won't succeed, you won't do anything to try to succeed, and you will fail. If you believe you can, you can. Because if you believe you can, you will just keep going, and you will just keep working towards your goals, and you will just keep learning new ways to get by and learning ways to get better, because you don't have that voice in your head saying you can't do this and you can't do that, or it's too late for this, or you're not good enough, because none of that matters if you believe that you can. And I still struggle with that today. I still have my insecurities. I still look at other dancers and go, oh my God, how am I going to succeed in this industry if there are all these amazing dancers? But it doesn't matter, because what everybody else is doing doesn't matter. You need to focus on yourself and your journey and doing the best that you can right now, and that's all that matters. So at 19, I started taking tap classes, ballet classes, jazz classes for the first time. And then by halfway through my second semester of my first year of college, I got really sick, and I ended up coming down with a heart infection called pericarditis that affects the outer layer of your heart, and I ended up being in the hospital for a month on bed rest, and I was no longer able to dance. At this point, I was filling up applications for every single musical theater school in the country so that I could hopefully secure my spot in some musical theater school for September, and I was no longer able to dance. I was no longer able to move or do anything that took any kind of high energy. I wasn't even able to sing, and I felt just totally defeated. So I spent my month on bed rest, and then at that point I just felt like, you know what, there's no way that I can do this. Look at all these people in my class that are so much better than me already. Like, how am I ever going to catch up? I remember going to the Sheridan musical theater audition, which was the school that I was currently going to for performing arts, and they were like, maybe you should try an acting program. And I was like, But because there were some late auditions, I did end up being able to go to a dance audition, and I got into a musical theater program at a college. Now, once I got accepted into my new musical theater college, there was this girl in my class named Maddie who had been training in dance and gymnastics and competing since she was like 3 years old. And I remember on our first day of orientation, the head of the dance program was talking to us and trying to set the precedent for realistic goals. And she said, now, just to make it very clear, nobody in this room is ever going to get a role in a dance show like Cats or a chorus line, except for maybe Maddie. And at that point, I was like, what? Then why am I here? Those were the roles that I wanted, was these giant dance-heavy roles, and I just wanted to be on stage dancing. And so that really lit a fire under my butt. I was like, you know what? I am going to be a dancer, and I am going to be able to do this, and I'm going to be on stage one day dancing one of these dance roles, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's moments like that that I look back on that really, really, really inspired me and motivated me. And that's why I kind of laugh when I'm watching Dance Moms and Abby tells one of the kids, you can't do this. Because I'm like, you know what? That is literally going to be the reason why they succeed, is because you said they can't. And from there, I was able to train extensively for 3 years. And we had different levels of dance at our school. And if you wanted to, you were able to take different levels during your what would normally be your time off. And so if you really, really, really were focused on getting better, you could take dance for like 8 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then just take all of your other dance classes the other days. You could literally just work your butt off, and you got out of it whatever you put into it. So I started out at that musical theater program, still not really thinking that I could do anything, and I was surrounded by all these amazing people that inspired me, but also really, really intimidated me. And because of that environment, I was able to really, really challenge myself and work hard. But come my second year of musical theater school, I was cast in my first big lead role ever in my life. And it was so much pressure for me, and I remember struggling with ADHD and struggling with stress and anxiety and depression, and I just could not handle it anymore. And so I made it to the point where I finished that role in Greece, and then as soon as I was done Greece, I was like, I have to leave school, and I ended up dropping out, having a full mental breakdown. My life was like a complete mess. But during that year, I picked myself up again, and that is all that matters. If you get knocked down, picking yourself up again and trying again, that is success. And so I went back to school, and I went back to my program, and I got cast in more lead roles, and I kept working on dance, and Dance Moms came out during this time, and I remember being obsessed with Dance Moms because it was almost like mirroring my experience in college, except for they were little kids going through all of the exact same pressures and stresses that I couldn't even handle, and I was having mental breakdowns and needed to drop out of college for in my 20s. So from then on, I remember being obsessed with the show. I was so inspired, and I would literally just listen to everything that Abby Lee Miller had to say as if it was the gospel. Like, I literally learned so much from that woman just watching that show. From that point on, I trained my butt off in every style of dance. I was watching every single video that I could find on YouTube. I watched every single trainer and coach that I could find on every different style that I wasn't training in school. A bunch of us would start going to the school on weekends, even when we didn't have class, to practice acrobatics, and we kind of made like a gymnastics group because a bunch of us wanted to succeed in gymnastics, and we didn't have any gymnastics classes at school. Then, towards the end of my second year of musical theater school, we created a celebration called Dance Day, where we would show off all of the different choreographies from all of the different dance classes that we were in, but you could also enter choreography if you were a dancer or a student in the program. So at that point I was watching Dance Moms, and I was obsessed with Dance Moms, and I was so inspired by all of those heartfelt choreographies that I decided, you know what, I'm going to choreograph for the first time, even though I've only been dancing for like 2 years. And me and my friend Kaylee choreographed a piece called Requiem for a Dream, and we entered that in dance day, and that is when I started to feel like a real dancer. I had like this troupe. There was a group of us practicing. We were working so hard. All we wanted to do was be great and like to be able to make my own choreography. And at this point I still was like such a crap dancer, but my heart was so in it and my passion was so in it, and I felt like I could succeed for once in my life, and I felt like I was doing the right thing for once in my life. And if I would have believed all of those thoughts that I had in my head, that I would always fail if I tried, that there was no way to succeed, that I wasn't good enough, all of these limiting beliefs that I had in my head, that other people were better, that you needed to start at 3 years old, that if you weren't Maddie and you weren't training for 14 years, you'd never get a role. Like all of these limiting beliefs that I had, I just needed to throw them out the door in order to succeed. From there I got a few more lead roles, some dance roles. I graduated college, I moved to Toronto, I got an agent, I started going to musical theater and film auditions, and I've been singing since I was 3 years old. But I remember when I was auditioning for musical theater programs that the scariest part was the dance audition, because I was like, oh my god, I have 2 left feet, I can't dance. And so to get to a point where I was living in Toronto, the biggest city in my country, and I was auditioning for musicals, and I was rocking the dance component to the point that that was like the best, strongest performance. Like I was way better at dancing than I was at singing at that point. I was like, wow, in what world? Like all because I just decided to stop believing that I was going to fail. Stop believing all of these limiting beliefs. From there, I moved back to Alberta. I started taking private lessons from the same lady that taught me that very first hip-hop class in gym class in grade 6, and we were doing ballet privates twice a week. I started teaching at her studio. That is where I became a dance coach, and I was coaching RAD grade 2 ballet. From there, I moved to Vancouver. I started training at an intense dance studio where I was super duper duper intimidated because every single person there is amazing at urban, commercial, and hip-hop, and I can't at all. I can. We are removing those limiting beliefs. It is just harder for me than contemporary and musical theater. The moral of the story here is that you can't listen to those limiting beliefs. You have to keep going. You have to go to class. You have to do all of the work. Put in the work at home. Put in the work wherever you can. Take whatever opportunities you can possibly find, and you will reap what you sow. As long as you don't believe in those limiting beliefs, just don't let them into your brain. They literally have no purpose other than to distract you, to make you feel worse. That's all they do. So from there on, I trained, I danced. I continued to audition for cruise lines for a while, decided I don't really want to do that. I continued to audition for dancing in film and television and movies. I did a couple parts like that, but I decided I don't really want to do that either. And now I am brought to YouTube because I didn't want to go to auditions and I didn't want to do all of these other jobs. I found myself in my dream job where I can literally talk to dancers and talk to people that are obsessed and as passionate about dance as I am on a daily basis. I can train. I have the space to train at home. I don't really have the money to take a lot of class, but I'm sure one day I will have the money to train hardcore as I want to train. And I just have the freedom to now create and to be, and I would never have got here if I believed in those limiting beliefs, and I believed at 12 years old that I could never be a professional dancer. I would have never worked with Kenny Ortega. I would have never went to musical theater school. I would have never got any of these opportunities, and I certainly would not be Dance Coach Reacts here on YouTube. I just want you guys to believe in yourself, because if you believe you can, you will succeed. And if you don't let those limiting beliefs in that tell you that you can't and that tell you you're not good enough, you will succeed. And that is the end of the story. So do I still struggle with insecurities? Do I still struggle with those limiting beliefs and having that voice being like, you can't do this, or you're not good enough, or you can't dance hip-hop, you're a ballet dancer? Yes, I struggle with those things all the time. But the challenge for me is to actively be like, you know what, this voice is not important, this voice is not useful to me, and the voice that I need to listen to is the voice that tells you, you can. It doesn't matter if you are as good as your expectations that you set for yourself. It doesn't matter if you dance like the person next to you. It doesn't matter if you are as good as your idol. Your job is to do your best that you can do right now. And I honestly believe it is your responsibility to yourself to do the best that you can do. That's the key to success, in my opinion. So I let those fears control my life for the first 19 years. I held grudges towards my parents for not putting me in dance. I held grudges towards people that told me that I couldn't do it. I held grudges towards myself for having this voice that told me that I couldn't do it, that held me back for so long. I threw that all out the window and I decided to just go for it and believe in myself, and I wouldn't be here today if I didn't. So I hope that this message has inspired you, that you can start dancing at any age, whether you are 2, 7, 9, 63, 102. It doesn't matter. You can start today and you can succeed. You can become a professional dancer even. Like, those opportunities are there. As long as you don't believe in limiting beliefs, you can and you will achieve your dreams, and I'm a firm believer of that. So I hope that this video helped some of you guys. If you liked it, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you have an inspiring story about dance or you've been inspired by this video, please let me know in the comments. I would love to chat with you guys. But as always, make sure to be weird, be wild, and stay sparkly. And I will catch you guys in the next video. If you believe you can, you can. You can do it.